For this video, we're going to be solving number 1 from the 2009 AB free response questions. Part A asks us to find the acceleration of Karen's bicycle at time t equals 7.5 minutes. So the graph they give is just a normal velocity versus time graph. So the acceleration of Karen's bicycle would be the slope of the function. So you get velocity at 8 minutes minus the velocity at 7 minutes divided by 8 minus 7, which will give us 0.2 minus 0.3 over 1. So the final answer is negative 0.1 miles per minute squared. And that would be the acceleration of Karen's bicycle at 7.5 minutes. Part B asks us, using the correct units, explain the meaning of the integral from 0 to 12 of the absolute value of the function v of t in terms of Karen's trip, and then find the value of that integral. The first thing we notice is that the integral of the absolute value of the velocity gives us the total distance traveled in miles by Karen. Second, we notice that the time parameters set by the integral are from 0 minutes to 12 minutes. So in order to find the value of the integral, we must find the absolute value of the graph, since the question is asking us for the total distance that Karen travels, including the time she spends going backwards. For the first part, we take the value of the integral from 0 to 2 minutes, yielding a positive area of 0.2. The second part, from 2 to 4 minutes, yields a negative area of 0.2, which must be subtracted from our total equation in order to account for the fact that Karen is going backwards at that time. And then the third part, from 4 to 12 minutes, yields a positive area of 1.4. So the sum of these three parts is 1.8 miles, which is the total distance that Karen travels during her trip. Part C asks us to find the time when Karen turns around to go back home. So that would be at t equals 2 minutes, which is when her velocity goes from positive to negative, so she's going backwards. So part D gives us a new velocity function for Larry and then asks us to find who lives closer to the school, Karen or Larry. So to find the distances that Larry and Karen live from the school, we have to take the integral from 0 to 12 of their respective velocity functions. So for Larry, we do the integral from 0 to 12 of w of t dt, and that gives us 1.6. So Larry lives 1.6 miles from the school. So if we were to graph Larry's velocity function from time t equals 0 to time t equals 12, the total area between the function and the x-axis would equal 1.6. Similarly, when we take the integral from 0 to 12 of Karen's velocity function, we find that she lives 1.4 miles from the school, which makes sense because earlier we found the total distance that Karen travels to get to school, and instead of adding the negative distance that she travels, we subtract that from the total. So because Larry lives 1.6 miles from the school and Karen lives 1.4 miles from the school, we know obviously that Karen lives closer to the school.